Have you ever had that feeling where you're trying to help someone, but it feels like you're just spinning your wheels, or maybe even making things worse? Well, today we're going to dig into a really fascinating biblical take on that exact problem. This explainer is all about 7 specific types of people where, according to the source material, trying to help might actually be doing more harm than good, spiritually speaking. So let's jump in and explore these archetypes and the wisdom behind this pretty counterintuitive advice.
So the whole idea we're exploring kicks off with this pretty bold statement. Some of the people you're helping are actually blocking your blessings. The thinking here is that not everyone in your life was sent by God, and some people could be unintentionally standing in the way of your own path forward. It's a really challenging thought, isn't it? Let's break down what that actually means.
Okay, so our first section covers 2 types of people who are kind of grouped together because they share one major trait. They're actively resisting the truth and, deep down, have no real desire to change.
First up, we've got the unrepentant. And this one is so foundational because it really gets to the heart of whether help can even be received in the first place.
I mean, just look at this metaphor here. Helping someone who refuses to change is like building this beautiful, strong ladder for a person who's decided they're just going to get comfortable at the bottom of the pit. Your support doesn't actually help them climb out, it just enables their behavior. It can even make their heart harder toward the very change they need.
And the source material really grounds this idea with a super vivid verse from Proverbs. Now, the key here isn't to judge the person, but to recognize a destructive pattern. When someone keeps going back to the same mistake over and over again, no matter how much you help, your support might actually be getting in the way of a really important lesson they need to learn for themselves.
Okay, so now we're going to jump ahead to number 6 on the list, the willfully disobedient, because honestly, it fits perfectly under this whole theme of willful blindness.
So this isn't about someone who just doesn't know any better. We're talking about someone who knows exactly what the truth is, but makes a conscious choice to go against it. The warning from the source is that helping this person isn't love. It's enabling. You're basically just paving their road to destruction, making it smoother and easier for them to walk down. And this scripture here really illustrates the solution that's proposed. It suggests that sometimes the most loving thing you can possibly do is to create a boundary. It's not about hate or rejection. It's really about allowing that person to feel the natural consequences of their choices. That might be the very thing that finally helps them turn around.
All right, moving on to our next section, we meet the peace breakers. These are the folks who don't just harm themselves. They actively create chaos and disrupt the harmony for everyone around them.
The second type on our list is the manipulative. And oh man, this one can be so subtle. For a lot of us, it's really hard to spot when we're in the middle of it.
So, what's the difference between true ministry and just plain manipulation? Well, the source draws a really clear line. True ministry is all about purpose, and it leads to peace. But manipulation, that runs on pressure and guilt, and it always costs you your own peace. The source points to Jesus in Luke 4, when he literally walked away from a crowd that was trying to keep him there. Why? Because he was driven by his purpose, not by their demands.
And right after that, we have our third category, the divisive. These are the people who just seem to thrive on conflict. You know the type, the gossipers, the drama magnets, the people who are always stirring things up. The warning here is super clear. When you get involved and try to help someone who's actively creating division, you don't get to stay neutral. You inevitably get sucked into their drama, and all of a sudden, their conflicts start having very real consequences in your own life.
The instruction from the book of Titus is incredibly direct here. It's almost like a 2 strikes and you're out rule. Now, this isn't framed as being cold or unloving. It's presented as a necessary step for self-preservation and for protecting the peace of the entire community. It's really all about setting a firm boundary. All right, our third section focuses on a category of people who can be just spiritually exhausting. The kind who just empty your tank, and you often don't even realize it until you're running on fumes. And that brings us to number 4, a type that is very fittingly called the drainer. Wow, that language is powerful, isn't it? They're not looking for change, they're looking for a host to feed on. You give and you give, your time, your energy, your prayers, but nothing ever changes. The source reminds us that even Jesus had to pull away to pray and recharge. So protecting your own spiritual energy, it isn't selfish, it's absolutely essential if you want to be effective for anyone. Next up is a dynamic that is so subtle but also so dangerous. It's when you accidentally become someone's God replacement.
It's this slippery slope that almost always starts out innocently. They come to you for advice and prayer, which is great. But over time, their dependence starts to shift away from God and onto you. Before you even know it, you've become their main source of strength and wisdom, and that's a role only God is supposed to fill. The source brings up Paul and Barnabas in Acts 14, who were horrified when people tried to worship them and immediately pointed them back to God.
Our final section kind of brings everything together with a really crucial theme: the importance of protecting your own divine calling from distractions, even the ones that seem good.
And this brings us to our seventh and maybe most surprising type, the assignment blocker.
Okay, this is a really nuanced point. These people aren't necessarily bad or toxic. In fact, they might be wonderful people, but they just aren't aligned with where God is calling you to go. The source uses the example of Abram taking his nephew Lot with him, even though God told him to leave his family behind. And it wasn't until Lot was separated from him that Abram could fully receive the vision for his destiny. So think of it this way: even good distractions can pull you off your unique path.
So just to do a quick recap, we've covered the unrepentant, the manipulative, the divisive, the drainer, the God replacement, the willfully disobedient, and finally, the assignment blocker. Each one represents a different way that our best intentions could, from this perspective, accidentally get in the way of spiritual growth, not just for them, but for us too.
And that leaves us with this incredibly powerful, introspective question from the source material, and it's really meant to be a point of prayer and reflection. The question is, who have I been carrying that you never asked me to? It shifts the focus away from judging other people and towards seeking wisdom for our own lives. Because at the end of the day, the big takeaway isn't to stop helping people. It's to help with discernment, making sure our efforts are truly aligned with a higher purpose.